Number 3, no kids. Look, guys, we're making a big enough jump as it is, allowing all the adults in the world to say, have, for instance, marijuana. Let's say, okay, children are not allowed in on this. Just, if nothing else, out of gut instinct, just please keep it away from the children. And any of these laws I might change at some point, but just don't have kids involved on drugs, etc. And principle number 4 will be the various types of regulation. Everyone who sells the drugs would need a permit. They'd have to be, free or relatively free of criminal records. Like, if you're selling cocaine and also marijuana, like, okay, you lose your marijuana license when we find out you're selling cocaine, so long as cocaine remains illegal. Now, again, if we go to the full Portugal method, even the cocaine would potentially be legal. Again, I'm not sure what the Portugal laws are on selling drugs, just on the possession of drugs. Anyway, but you need like a permit, you need to register, you need to keep track of how many drugs you sold, and yada. You might even need a permit to use them, and that would be a way of controlling total numbers. Like, we issue so many thousand permits per year to sellers and or buyers, and therefore would allow us to sort of tiptoe into this notion of legal drug usage and see if it screws everything up. And then if we're going with permit for using, then obviously you would lose that permit for violating one of the previous principles if you expose someone else to the drug. If you could inject marijuana, by the way, that would solve your exposure problem right there. Wouldn't necessarily solve an endangerment problem, but the exposure problem, that'd be great, because clearly if it's injectable, no one else is being injected with that same needle right now. Another thing about needles, by the way, is that HIV contracted by needles in Portugal has also gone down, because people are using less needles, with less heroin and less so forth. So that's the basic idea. Okay, as basic principles, and then California wants to go off and do really liberal drug laws, and other states want to do other various little things, and certainly shipping drugs into a state which doesn't allow the drugs, that would be illegal under that state and federal law. Things like that, etc., etc. And then potentially, there'd be taxes thrown in on this. Potentially, you make a fair amount of tax money. Some people have referenced that as like that would be a real boon to the economy. Maybe. I'm not exactly sure how much money you'd make and how much time and how much that would help this or that or the other thing. Economics have always been really weird. But on that central topic of decreasing drug use, to decrease drug use, as Portugal shows us, maybe the best way is to offer up rehab freely, without any strings attached, without any jail time, without anything. Do that. You may save yourself a lot of money and a lot of anguish on all sides. And a lot of people using less drugs. That's a real paradox, but it's happening now in the real world. And, okay, there's one guy who's saying, look, drug use sort of is cyclical. People use a lot and then not use much, and, just as cultural things, take things back and forth. That may be responsible for some of the decline. But things have not skyrocketed. Like, the real fear was that if drugs are decriminalized, everyone will use drugs. All drugs all over the place. Everyone will, as much as they want to, Has it happened? If there were drug tours and all sorts of people flocked to Portugal just to take, have drugs and so forth. No, not that really either. No. So one way or another, we've got to be open to new ideas. Even if we find out the new ideas are crap for some reason, we go back to the old ideas. It's not right of us to be dogmatic. We cannot just continue on the old course under the assumption that it's the right thing to do. It's well-intentioned, obviously. A lot of people have suffered due to drugs, and I'm proud that we're trying to stop it, but we may be trying in an entirely ham-fisted way. Certain amounts of decriminalization coupled with rehab programs. If you don't have the rehab programs, I don't know what happens. That could easily screw up everything. But if you have rehab programs made available, paid for by the government, and couple that with decriminalization, that might change the whole dang thing. It might. And I'm a guy who hates drugs. But I'm still, maybe decriminalization under certain circumstances, etc., etc. Certain principles, again, non-endangerment, no kids, non-exposure, etc. Changing the laws, making it, superficially easier to get drugs might, paradoxically, decrease drug usage and therefore accomplish what we've been trying to do all along. That's Portugal. That's real world right now, and I can't really ignore that data. So, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to consider these ideas. Thanks for watching. See you later.